Hi, in this video I'm going to go over what's new in IBM Copy Services Manager version 6.2.2. Version 6.2.2 EG8 on March 16th, 2018. This presentation I'll give a quick overview of CSM and then I'll talk about what's new. So just a brief overview, IBM Copy Services Manager is designed to be a one-stop shop that provides you monitoring and managing capability over your storage replication, in particular your advanced multi-site replication, or easy to install, easy to set up. We provide alerts, etc., as well as RPO monitoring and historical reporting. So from one pane of glass, you can manage all your IBM hardware and the replication on the storage system. We provide disaster recovery and high availability, so that high availability part is the ZOS HyperSwap capabilities, as well as support for the Power H8 HyperSwap. We have practice sessions, which allow you to practice it with a single command. You can flash, get a consistent copy of the remote site while you do your, and then restarts the session automatically, so that you can practice while you are actually DR capable. So if you have a disaster, you can easily do a recover. And we have a philosophy of practice the way you recover, so you're always practicing off the same volumes that you're going to attach your host to in the case of a disaster. And then we have a number of security stuff to protect your data, or warning prompts, user roles, site awareness, etc., that are above and beyond what you can get out of other storage products. So with that said, let's talk about what's new in particular in version 6.2.2. This is a high-level overview. We have a customizable language setting. That was a request by customers. We have a view session progress and RPO reporting from the session overview panel. We have the ability to load multiple certificates in a single file for LDAP configurations. We have the ability to enable easy-tier heat map transfer for session configurations in CSM. We have new options for ZOS HyperSwap sessions. And we have an enhanced scheduler. So I'll talk about these all in a little more detail. First, I'll talk about the customizable language setting for the CSM GUI. So from our advanced tools panel, there is a new user preference option, and that allows you to select your preferred language. So what this does is, from the actual GUI itself, without regard to the system that the browser is running on, you can modify it to whatever language you choose. So if the server that the browser is running on is set to a German locale, for example, you could actually, normally in previous releases, if you brought up the browser through CSM, we would display things in German. However, now you can actually change it to any of the other and the other supported languages, English, French, etc., by setting this option. It's also settable per user, so that language setting is persisted at a user basis on a browser basis. So within that browser, the setting is stored based off the user and his or her preference. So just a quick demo of that. I'm going to go into the settings panel. If I click on settings and then advanced tools, you'll see the new user preferences section. If I select German, like I mentioned before, click apply. Now you'll see the language automatically change to German across all the different panels within the CSM GUI. If I go back, I can choose to either use the default browser, that's whatever the server is set to, or I could go back to English. And there you go. So hopefully this comes in handy for a number of our customers who just need to run on a server that has a different language setting that they want to display in our GUI. Our next new feature is the ability to view progress and RPO from our session overview panel. This is also a customer requested feature. So we have a session overview panel that gives you the session state and status for all the various sessions you have defined on a CSM server, but you couldn't really see progress. In order to see progress before, you had to drill into the session, and then you could see various information like RPO, or if you had an initial copy going, you can see what the status is there. So now, from that session overview panel, we have rolled the progress up so that you can see at a glance all your various progress across all your various sessions. So let me show you a live example of that. I'm going to go back to my session overview panel, and you can see progress is now displayed for all my various sessions. So not only is the progress displayed, but you can see, given the role pair, what it is. So in this case, I have my RPO information. I can see exactly what that is for that AKGMP session. Or in the case of a multi-target solution, which this AKMMGM session is, where we have a single source to multiple targets, you're going to have multiple progresses based off the different legs. So for the Metro Mirror leg, we have 100% on this case. That's why we're prepared. But we also have a global mirror leg, and I can see my data exposure there as well. Right. So hopefully this gives the customer what they need so that at a glance they can see their overall progress across all their sessions. All right, our next feature is the ability to load multiple certificates in a single file for LDAP configurations. So what does this mean? Well, we always supported the ability to use multiple LDAP servers in order to do your authentication. So from that LDAP configuration wizard, you could click on the Add Authentication Server, enter multiple servers, and thus give you redundancy in your authentication. However, there are cases where your servers may have different certificates or other various errors, and we didn't have the support that when you load that certificate could have multiple certificates within it. So in this release, we added the ability to, when you do that load, in that file, you can specify the multiple certificates, and when you do that load, it will be added to the server. So hopefully this remedies those situations where customers have multiple LDAP servers and different certificates. And if you need more details on that, our Knowledge Center will give you more information. All right, our next feature is another customer requested feature. We've had for a while the ability to enable easy-tier heat map transfer for a CSM server. Basically what that did before was any of the storage system connections, you could choose one or more of the boxes, and the code would automatically discover all relationships on that box to whatever target box is and transfer the easy-tier heat map knowledge to the secondary systems. Part of the problem with this was that if you're running CSM practice sessions, all that the easy-tier heat map transfer code knew about were the actual physical relationships on the hardware. So in the practice session case, you actually flash into another set of volumes at the remote site, and thus which were actually the volumes you can attach your hosts to. And so that learned data only made it to the target volumes and didn't get to the flash copy target. And thus, when they attached their host, they weren't actually running the easy-tier heat map transfer knowledge. So now we have multiple options. You can now select to transfer only session managed relationships, or use what we had before, which is transfer all relationships. If you choose to transfer only the session managed relationships, what happens is we'll look at all the running sessions, and for all the H volumes, so all the H's at the different sites for the various sessions you have configured and running, we will set up the configuration for the easy-tier heat map transfer code so that it will transfer that data to those volumes. So that covers practice sessions. I'll show you how. So under the Storage Systems panel, go to Storage Systems. There's an easy-tier heat map transfer tab. You can see this is selected as transfer only session managed relationships, and you can see that just like before, you can see the status of each of the transfers. So the data transfer for this one, you can see when the next time it would be transferred and when the last time it was transferred, and what that status was. But the way it works is because I have session managed relationships, if I go into here, go into my global mirror with practice session. The data, since H1 is my production volume, it's the easy tier code is taking the data from that H1 volumes and then it's applying it to the H2 volumes. So H2 you can see is not the target of the flash copy relationship from I2 to H2, and the global copy relationship is running from H1 to I2. So H2 isn't actually in a PPRC relationship. However, because you're running with session managed configuration for easy tier heat map transfer, the data from H1 is going to H2 so that when you do a recover or a practice, H2 actually has the learned data and you're running with it correctly. All right, our next one, new feature is we provided some new options when you're configuring a ZOS HyperSwap session. So loads can fail on ZOS HyperSwap if the secondary is either boxed or secondaries are marked as in use by the system. That's the UCBNALOC bit. And so customers would do these loads, they would fail, and they would have to go and manually change these values after they confirmed that there was not an issue. So now what we've added is a couple of options in the session properties for any of the HyperSwap enabled session types, where if you do a load, do the start, and it goes to do a load and hits this error, you can then go into the properties, check these bits, and for example, in the case of the secondary being boxed, if you select the Unbox Secondary Volumes option, during the load processing, it will automatically unbox the secondary volumes before continuing the load. And the same with the reset. It will reset any secondary in use value on the secondary volumes and then do the load. So this helps the customer get by the issues much faster. But I should repeat that the recommendation is to leave those off by default, like they are, and only use these in the case that they actually hit an error, so that once they hit the error, they can confirm that there is not an actual issue. There's on those secondaries that they're not boxed for a given reason, for example. And once they've confirmed that, then they can check those, reissue the load, and they should be good. They shouldn't have to go manually unbox them, etc. And our last feature here I want to talk about today is our enhanced scheduler. So in previous release, in our 6.2.1 release, we added a scheduler that allows you to schedule flash copy relationships, flashes. So you issue the flash command at a given time. However, we did realize that there are customers that want to schedule more complex actions. And so now in 6.2.2, we've added a lot more complexity to our scheduler, where you can have all the commands against all the sessions are now available. And we've added a wait for state action as well. So within a given task, a scheduled task that you create, you can actually create various commands and wait for state actions to run in a given sequence whenever that scheduled task runs. So let me show you in our GUI. I'm going to go to Settings, Scheduled Tasks, and I'll just create a new task so you can see what it's like. Create a new task. New task for demo. You can obviously give it a description or create a PE package if there's an error that occurs in the task automatically. You can schedule it like before at any of the various times we want. So if we want to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for example, at 12 a.m. to the middle of the night. What we can do now is we get a second panel where you can add your actions. So I'm going to add an action. In this case, I'm going to do a set of commands. So I'm going to choose, let's say, my practice session. Here's the list of commands I can issue. So at 12 a.m. I wanted to say suspend. So now click the suspend. You can see that that action showed up here. But now I want to do another set of actions. Let's say because I'm a suspend, because it's asynchronous, now I'm going to want to do a wait for state, use that same session, and I'm going to wait for it to go suspended. You can add the various timeouts here. In this case, I don't want it to wait too long, so wait time out of 5 minutes. And so now what we have is a scheduled task that will suspend the AKGMP session, wait for it to reach a suspended state, and it'll wait up to 5 minutes for it to reach a suspended state. If it doesn't reach that 5 minutes, after 5 minutes, the task will fail and stop execution. And if you mark the P package, so you'll get a P package at that time as well. But now, what I want maybe is to flash a different session. So, say I do AK, where is it? AKFC. I can issue the flash command. Maybe it's a flash off of some of the secondaries at the remote site. So I issue the flash command, and then after the flash is issued, maybe I want to restart that AKGMP session. So now I've got a set of steps. I have the suspend, a wait for the suspend, a flash, issue the start, and you can see that those set of steps will run in that order whenever the scheduled task occurs. So I'm going to click Next. You'll see the summary of the scheduled task you created. Click Finished. And now I have new task or demo, which is currently disabled. It's disabled by default, but I can enable it, or I can issue the run task. And if I run it, it's going to run through those set of steps automatically, even if I don't enable it. So now in the background, it's running, and it's doing all those steps that we talked about. I can pull up the console. I can see that we are at just a few minutes ago, the suspend command was issued. It's pausing. We waited for the suspended state. The scheduled task demo step 2. Start step 2. We issued the flash command. Flash command completed. Start command was issued. And then we were up and running again. So in that quick amount of time, those steps all ran just based off of me running that scheduled task. So that's what's new in CSM 6.2.2. Hopefully you see that we've added a lot of new features that will come in handy. Some user requested features, but also some of the scheduled tasks, some things that we feel will be handy for some users going forward in the future. So here's a few links that may be helpful for you as you look at CSM. But as usual, if you have any questions, please make any comments to the YouTube channel. We will answer them as quickly as possible. Or feel free to open any RFEs in our RFE community for any requested features. If you see something with the new stuff that you want to add to, feel free to add those as comments or RFEs. Thank you for your time.